Russia invaded Ukraine on 24 February 2022 in an internationally condemned act of aggression. The invasion has triggered Europe's largest refugee crisis since World War II, with more than 4.5 million Ukrainians leaving the country and a quarter of the population displaced. Russia subsequently annexed Crimea, and Russian-backed separatists seized part of the southeastern Donbas region of Ukraine, sparking a war there. In 2021, Russia began a large military buildup along its border with Ukraine, amassing up to 190,000 troops along with their equipment. Putin said that the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, by expanding eastward since the early 2000s, had threatened Russia's security, a claim disputed by NATO, and demanded Ukraine be barred from ever joining the alliance. The United States and others accused Russia of planning to attack or invade Ukraine, which Russian officials repeatedly denied as late as 23 February 2022. The following day, the Federation Council of Russia authorized the use of military force abroad, and overt Russian troops entered both territories. The invasion began on the morning of 24 February, when Putin announced a special military operation to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. In response, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky enacted martial law and general mobilization. Multi-pronged offensives were launched from Russia, Belarus, and the two occupied territories of Ukraine, Crimea and Donbas. The four major offensives are the Kyiv Offensive, the Northeastern Ukraine Offensive, the Eastern Ukraine Offensive, and the Southern Ukraine Offensive. Russian forces have approached or besieged key settlements, including Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Kherson, Kyiv, Mariupol, and Sumy, but met stiff Ukrainian resistance and experienced logistical and operational challenges that hampered their progress. In late March 2022, Russian forces withdrew from the Kyiv region with the declared aim to refocus on Donbas, leaving behind devastated settlements and growing evidence of atrocities against civilians. The invasion has been widely condemned internationally. The United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution which condemned it and demanded a full withdrawal. Many countries imposed new sanctions, which have affected the economies of Russia and the world, and provided humanitarian and military aid to Ukraine. Protests occurred around the world. Those in Russia have been met with mass arrests and increased media censorship, including banning the terms war and invasion. The International Criminal Court opened an investigation into war crimes that occurred in Ukraine since the 2013-2014 Revolution of Dignity through to war crimes in the 2022 invasion. After the dissolution of the Soviet Union, USSR, in 1991, Ukraine and Russia maintained close ties. In return, Russia, the United Kingdom, UK, and the United States, US, agreed to uphold the territorial integrity of Ukraine through the Budapest Memorandum. In the years after the Soviet Union's collapse, several former Eastern Bloc countries joined NATO, partly in response to regional security threats such as the 1993 Russian constitutional crisis, the war in Abkhazia, 1992–1993, and the First Chechen War, 1994–1996. Russian leaders described this expansion as a violation of Western powers' informal assurances that NATO would not expand eastward.